Yeah, just two things. First, Senator Manchin, in your usual common sense way, you put your finger on something very important, which we talked about earlier, which is red teaming or hackers for hire or penetration testing, whatever you want to call it. We need more of it. We need authority to do it in Mr. Gates's agency, perhaps in FERC. People can certify that they're secure, but there's no way to really test that until you've really tried to penetrate their network. So I've asked Mr. Gates to supply us with what he feels he needs in the way of additional authorities to make that happen. So I want to associate myself with that question. One other question that hasn't come up today, and I don't know whether this should be to Mr. McClellan or to Mr. Gates, but isn't distributed energy, that is generation at the home or in the neighborhood, which is now available to us in part through the use of solar, isn't that part of a national security solution to try to avoid the risk of the giant grid with the giant generating plant, that if it goes online, everybody goes down? Is anybody thinking about that? Mr. Gates, is that something that you all have looked at?
Senator King, it is something the department is concerned with, particularly when we look at some of the grid modernization initiatives. Baking security into that modernization, whether they're microgrids and so forth, is an important aspect of it. But there are those who also believe that if we don't bake in security, that we're distributing the problem. Those systems still are dependent on technologies that could be vulnerable and just change the nature of an attack. Make it a.
But if you have a solar array on your house that supplies your needs, you don't care if something happens to a generating plant 200 miles away. That's my point. It seems to me that there is a resilience, redundant kind of effect here, and I realize integration into the grid and all those are technical questions, but the decentralization. I mean, the whole history of our electrical system has been centralization. We're now in a place where technology allows us to decentralize, and it seems to me that could be an important advantage in terms of securing electric supply to individuals and businesses. Mr. McClellan, are you guys looking at that at FERC?
Thank you, Senator, for the question. In some ways, to add to Mr. Gates' point, in some ways, the addition of new technologies, new systems, especially supply chain concerns, can complicate security. However, to your point, there's a vast reduction of interdependencies associated with a self-sufficient plant. So I think that so long as the facility, just speaking for myself, so long as the facility is secure, is abiding by best practices to counter those adversarial attacks, it certainly makes it easier to protect a self-contained, fuel-secure facility such as renewables versus a facility that depends on many other types of infrastructure to produce generation.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Really instructive hearing again, and I appreciate the input that we've received not only from those within the department, the agencies, but also the private sector. I think.
Can I say one thing? Senator King, Angus, you still on?
Yeah.
Okay, Angus, only thing I wanted to ask, I know you asked directly with DOE if they could check, by doing basically hiring the real smart people we talk about that's able to find out if we're on our game or not.
Right.
But how about with PJM? Are they not responsible then, basically, if they're the carrier? I mean, they're one of the largest in the country. They're all over my state. Should they not be?
I asked PJM that question, and I think the response was that they do pen testing and red teaming. Isn't that correct, Mr. O'Brien? I thought that's what you said.
Yeah, thank you. Let me clarify. We do extensive red teaming on our own systems, and we do extensive penetration testing on our own systems. What we don't do is red teaming and penetration testing on our member company systems where data flows into us. So that's the little nuance to the question.
So you don't have jurisdiction for that, is what you're saying, why you don't do it?
You're not, no.
Okay. Angus, that gives us something else to work on.
Yeah.
And again, I think NERC plays a role in that as well.
Sure.
With the compliance. Thank you.
But that's your